and with an apology for this unruly stuff that's under my chin, because I did take the advantage to seeing what this would look like after 5 days. And my son has confirmed that it looks utterly ridiculous. So I'd be delighted to tell you all that it goes on Sunday for good, and you will never see it on me again. So I make my apologies for that. The other thing I'd like to do is I'd like to welcome Tina Coy, because it's great to see some of the Irish chapters joining us on the platform. And Tina, say hello to everybody in Cork. I hope you're all safe and well. So, but welcome. Will, I want to introduce you, but I want to give the introduction in terms of what it deserves. Resilience is something that's very topical at the moment. And resilience is something that we're all mindful of in present terms and the challenges that we face at the moment. So first of all, what about Will, Mr. Resilient Will? I want to know about you. Tell us about yourself first, and then tell us about your company, and then let's talk about resilience and what resilience means.
Yeah, of course. Well, first of all, thank you to yourself, Paul, and Laura, and everyone else at the Bitter team, Diane as well, who I know is on the call, because I love Bitter, everything they're about, everything that you guys stand for. And yeah, thank you so much for having the opportunity to share with everybody this evening. So in terms of myself, yeah, my name's Will Polston. I'm a mindset strategist, and everything really comes back to my mission. And my mission is I want to empower 1 billion people to transform excuses into results to benefit themselves, their family, their friends, their community, society, humanity, the universe, which is something that I refer to as the ripple effect. That kind of come, a lot of people say, well, that's a very odd thing to want to do. Most people sort of want cars and houses at my age, but it come about because I grew up with a belief that money equaled happiness, went off on a tangent to earn as much money as I could, as early as I could, become quite good at that. And then stumbled across personal development, realized that I'd been using a lot of personal development without realizing it. Did more personal development because I thought the more personal development I did, the more money I made. And then about 8 years ago, had what I call my lightning moment, which was a huge realization that actually money wasn't the real driver. It was something much, much deeper than that. It was family related, specifically to do with my dad. And now my mission is I want to see other people achieve what they're capable of. So like I say, so they can benefit themselves, and then the whole ripple effect that comes around it. So that's the short version of sort of why I do what I do and what I get up to. In terms of the different modalities that I use, so I train in something called neurolinguistic programming. I love studying, so anything that can enhance my potential. So everything from sociology to psychology, right through to quantum physics, stoicism, you name it. I bring it all in, mix it with a blend to just empower people to get those results very quickly, live a fulfilled life, and make a difference along the way.
Okay, in terms of our present times at the moment and the challenges that we have, and in understanding what resilience. So let's start with that word, resilience, and in terms of like, how do we, what is the meaning of resilience, and how do we apply it to times at the moment?
So in short, my opinion of what resilience is just bounceability. How quickly can we bounce back in terms of our own attitude from when something happens to getting ourselves back into a state that we want to be in, an emotional state that means we can be productive, means that we can be effective and move in a way that we want to go. In terms of right now, there's various different groups of people, as you can imagine. There's lots of people that, well, all of us have uncertainty, and what uncertainty brings is a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear for people. And one of the biggest things that's happening, I'm finding, for a lot of people right now is that they're finding themselves unhappy. And the reason for that, in my opinion, is because I have a very simple equation for happiness, and that's happiness is equal to or greater than your expectations. So if your expectations are not being met, you'll be unhappy. So the easiest thing to like most of us right now, particularly those of us that are in business, are realizing that things aren't meeting our expectations. So we need to be able to bring ourselves back, see things from a different perspective, so that we can gain that, we can get back on an even keel, which is where the resilience piece comes in.
Okay, and in terms of like, the stress of everything that's happening, and everything that's going on around. There's a million emotions. So there's our own personal emotion. There's watching the news and trying to find and figure out what's the right thing to do. How do we overcome that? How do we channel these things and kind of, for ourselves, even understand that we're getting it right?
Great question. So the first thing to understand is, well, what is an emotion? What's the purpose of an emotion? Any emotion is a signal. That's it. It's a signal to get us to have an awareness. So a positive emotion is, yep, we're doing something that we want to be doing and we feel good. Any negative emotion is also just a signal. And it's a signal to be thinking or acting differently. So if we're feeling lots of negative emotion, then we just need to go, right, well, it's very simple. I need to either be thinking differently or acting differently. One of my favorite quotes is by a guy called Dr. Wayne Dyer. And one of his famous quotes is, if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change the way you think about it. So that's certainly the ethos of what's going on. And in terms of, come back to your original question just then, is that you've got three decisions. How do you change the meaning? How do you see things from a different perspective? And there's just simply three decisions that you need to make, which is, what am I going to choose to focus on? So are you choosing to focus on the fact that you're spending time with family, focusing on the fact that you have got cash flow to get you through a period of time, or if you haven't, the actions that you're taking towards it? Or are you focusing on all of the hype that's coming out of the news every single day? So what are you focusing on? The second really important decision is, what are you making that mean? Because nothing in life has meaning except the meaning you give it. So what are you giving, what meaning are you giving to that thing that you're focusing on? And the third decision, what are you choosing to do next? So what are you focusing? What are you choosing to make that mean? And then what are you choosing to do next? Those three decisions will enable you to completely shape the outcome that you want. I like to break things down. One of I suppose my skills over the years is, I take quite complex things and make them really simple. And I have a formula for life, as I referred to it, which is E plus R equals O. So event add response equals outcome. And so many of us, in the past, we haven't responded, we've reacted. And the difference is, a reaction is an emotional impulse, and a response is something we consciously think about. So we can use our prefrontal cortex. It's something that we have as human beings that animals don't have, to think and make a conscious choice about what's going on externally. And then that will create an outcome, whether it's the outcome that we want or not.
Okay, and in context of, again, real time, we're talking about, I'm waking up in the morning and I've got this continuous dread. I've got this continuous darkness about my world. How do I go by creating something that's beyond that and overcoming that? What do I do first?
So I'm a huge believer in creating, and I'm sure many of the business owners that are on the call have already done this, but I'm a huge believer in creating what I call a Northstar. So if you just break it down, for millennium, we've used the Northstar as a guiding light. And for me, a Northstar is an ultimate goal in life, personally, professionally, financially, bring all of that together. What's the ultimate goal? And I like to get my clients to have a Northstar that's the equivalent of trying to empty the sea with a spoon. In business context, it might be the vision that you're talking about for the business, but we can have those in life, we can have them in business. What's the vision? Now, then what we do is we create the Northstar trajectories. So in the same way that a pilot will plot a journey from London to New York, they know their destination, they know where they're flying off from, they'll create that trajectory, but they'll fly off course 90% of the time. So having to make constant adjustments to the wind, for the weather, for the flock of birds that are coming towards them. Right now, we've got that flock of birds that's coming towards us, so we're having to make a real quick change to be able to get around it. So it's knowing what the end goal is, because what that does is it gives us perspective. When we're able to gain perspective and we're not in something, then we can bring ourselves out of it. We can look at the bigger picture and realize that this, yes, whilst it is a huge challenge for people right now, it is something that we can take more of an objective view of where we ultimately want to get to, and have a much bigger view, but then we can chunk things down and look at them day by day. So just to share one of the things that I was going to touch on a bit later. So I've studied various different things, but one of the things that I love studying is the elite. so the global elites in all different walks of life, from sport to business, you name it. And one of the studies I come across was about Navy SEALs. And there was a psychologist called Eric Potterat who studied Navy SEALs that went into Hell Week, and the ones that were successful, the ones that didn't ring the bell, the ones that pushed all the way through. And he found 4 things that were the difference, that made the difference with the ones that made it all the way through. And the first thing that he identified was that they were really goal focused. They knew what their mission was, but what they did is they chunked it down into tiny little things. So rather than worrying about what's going to be happening in 10 minutes or in 20 minutes or in 3 days, they literally looked at the very first thing that's in front of them and put all their attention into that, which comes back to the focus thing I was talking about, and dealt with things one thing at a time.
And in terms of other things then that you can do, like, we spoke about nature earlier. We mentioned some nests and birds and all that kind of stuff. So let's talk about things like, that and exercise. Yeah. How can that affect you, and how can that enhance what you're doing?
Hugely. So in again, in NLP, which is what I'm schooled in, and one of the things I'm schooled in, we talk about state change. How do we create state change? So for me, if we want to create an outcome, there's the 3 S's. So in reverse order, you've got strategy. So having a strategy is something you're going to do. The second most important thing, what overrides a strategy, is the story you tell yourself, your belief system. And the first most important thing, the thing that will override the story you tell yourself, is your state. So getting yourself in an emotional state. So exercising right now is definitely something to be doing. Getting yourself out there, moving your body, your physiology will override your psychology. So getting yourself moving. One of the things, again, looking after yourself in terms of making sure you drink enough water, making sure that you're having enough, getting enough food. One of the things, particularly for business owners right now, which I highly recommend, I'm just curious, how many people, just raise your hand on the call, how many people when they get stressed crave chocolate? I'm just curious. Now, the reason for that is that there's a mineral, it's the 4th most required mineral in our body, which is magnesium. And chocolate has magnesium in it. And if we're not getting, when we're really stressed, we use a massive amount of magnesium. So taking a magnesium supplement in stressful times is something that's really, really useful, and makes a big difference. Some other things that I tend to take is wheatgrass. It's a really high antioxidant. It will help just with any form of illness, but taking wheatgrass is something that's useful. But one of the most powerful things that you can do is breathe. Right, so most of us, we breathe all the time. But again, one of the 4 things that Eric Potterat noticed with Navy SEALs, the ones that were really successful when they got the way through, is that they controlled their breath, because our breath is something that is one of the only ways that we know that we can control our amygdala, which is our sort of reptilian brain. And they use a process called box breathing. So if you're not familiar with box breathing, we can all do it on the call. We'll do a round together now, but you breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold it for 4 seconds, you breathe out for 4 seconds, then you hold it out for 4 seconds before you breathe in again. And you literally you could do 3 rounds. I mean, you do 1 minute of box breathing and you'll just notice a sense of calm and peace. So whenever you can use it anytime. If you had a meeting that's been really stressful, you're coming out and you're about to go into another meeting, just do 1 minute of box breathing. You can do it anywhere you want. You can do it without people even knowing, so you can just breathe through your nose and they wouldn't even know. But I'm going to encourage you all to just do it. We'll do 1 round really quickly so everyone's had an experience of it. But so we do it now. So everyone breathes in for 4 seconds. Hold it. Breathe out for 4 seconds. Hold it. Breathe in for 4 seconds. Hold it. Breathe out for 4 seconds. Hold it. Breathe in for 4 seconds. Hold it. Breathe out for 4 seconds. Hold it. So hopefully in less than 1 minute, you've just noticed sort of a bit of a sense of calm just from going through the exercise. That's another thing that sort of aside from sort of exercise and eating well, that can be really useful.
In terms of magnesium, I hope there's magnesium in Guinness. Please tell me there is. I've got a question here. Humans are very social animals. Do you have any tips for those who live alone and are therefore isolated?
Yeah, for sure. Again, I think one of the beauties of this happening now is that so many of us are more technically equipped than we would have been if this had happened 15 years ago. So yeah, definitely reaching out and being in contact with other people, especially if that's something you're used to doing. If you're used to being in an environment where you're around people, then putting yourselves in those environments and connecting with people, whether it's virtually like this on Zoom, reaching out to family members. And I hear a lot of people say to me, well, I've not really got people, I don't know of any groups that I could go to and do that. And my answer to them is, well, create one then. if that's something that you're craving, then reach out to some friends, old school friends, old friends you used to play sport with, old business friends, old work colleagues, and connect with them, because if you're feeling it, chances are they are as well.
Okay. How can we help those friends and colleagues who are struggling from stress and anxiety and we don't realize it? And what are the giveaways to someone who, what can we look for in people who are actually suffering from this stress and anxiety?
Yeah, so first of all, anxiety is fear of the future. And so it's just understanding that if you're fearful of the future, we've just got to come back, because the future doesn't exist, neither does the past. The only thing that ever actually truly exists is now. So in terms of recognizing, in terms of recognizing if people are being fearful, so there's a few different telltale signs. So if you're finding that people aren't operating their normal way, they're moving themselves sort of they're keeping them to themselves. One of the things, they're typically more symptoms of people that are more depressed, but going to bed early, waking up late, so on and so forth. Again, depression. From experience of someone that's been there, it's just when you're comparing a fantasy to a reality. So again, a lot of people right now will be having feelings of depression. No one ever has depression, because you can't have it. You can have feelings of depression, which can feel like you've got something, but those are some of the telltale signs. One of the other things that's hugely beneficial, and I'm sorry I forgot to touch on it on your previous question, is meditating. I think it's one of the biggest game changers with so many different business owners that I work with and C-suite executives. It's one of the most underrated tools that you could be using at any point, but especially now. And a couple of useful ways of doing that is, there's an app called Headspace, which is really good. There's another app, I haven't personally used it, but a lot of people rate, which is called Insight Timer. And they're just really simple ways of you getting into meditation. You can just do 5 to 10 minutes a day. It will make a significant difference.
Okay, and I mean, I'm speaking for myself here now, but I'm sure I'm speaking for a lot more other people, right, at my age, in terms of things like yoga. I would have been kind of looked at yoga, sort of said, yoga, not for me. But explain the benefits of me taking on something like this and looking into it, and how could it change for the good for me?
Yeah, so the main one being, and again, for most of us right now, we're more alert. So what a lot of people aren't, I wonder if I can draw this out actually. So I've got a little pad here. I have to excuse my drawing. So when people talk about stress, most people don't understand there's 2 types of stress. There's distress and there's eustress. So distress, and eustress spelled EU stress.
Can't wait to see this pad.
It's like, should have done a Rolf Harris, shouldn't I? So this is the Yerkes-Dodson curve, but if this is distress, this is distress. So here is where you're, in fact, it's the wrong way around. So you've got distress either end here. You've got eustress in the middle. So eustress, this is like a peak performance curve. If you want to perform at your best, you need a certain level of arousal. But if you're too aroused, careful. If you're too aroused, you'll find yourself breaking down, which is when we're at the extremes of fear, when we're at extremes of anxiety, because we're too highly stimulated. Obviously, so here you break down, and then here you're distressed because you're bored, because there's not enough stimulus. So I've played ice hockey for many, many years. It's like, if I'm going to go out and play a game and I'm playing a playoff final, I am going to be a little bit fearful. I'm going to be a little bit concerned. I want to have an element of that to stimulate me so I can perform at my highest. So peak performance stress is what we're looking for. So to come back to your question, the likes of yoga, meditation, what it enables you to do is it enables you to have more resilience, to come back around to what we started off with, because you're not as highly aroused. The way I explain it to people, if you meditate in the morning, you might wake up in the morning, you're a 6 out of 10. Then something happens, and then you're at a 9 out of 10 in terms of arousal level. So you're highly stressed, highly anxious, whatever it might be. But you might meditate or do your yoga in the morning, you might wake up as a 6, then that brings you down to a 3. Then the same thing can happen in the day, but then you're only back up at a 6 again. So it just enables you to have more capacity. You feel a lot more present as well. So again, I know from experience, I'm thinking about, right, well, how's payroll going to work? How am I going to be able to do this? What about my clients? What about? And all the what if questions come in, which means that we're not being present. And the likes of yoga, the likes of meditation, the likes of breathing, a lot of these things that certainly I in the past have gone, no, that's way too woo-woo. That's too spiritual. That's not for me. They're the things that have been the real difference, that made the difference in some really hairy times in business. And there's certainly been things that have made life a lot easier for me in the current circumstances, and a lot of clients as well.
Okay, so how can we have a vision in a world that's so uncertain?
How can you have vision in a world that's so uncertain?
Yeah.
Is creating certainty in yourself. So by coming back to focus on what you can deal with. So you've got, to quote Stephen Covey, there's 2 circles. You've got the circle of concern, and then you've got the circle of influence. If you're constantly living in the circle of concern, then you're going to feel how you're constantly going to spiral out, and it won't be beneficial to you. But by focusing on what you can influence, or where are the things that you can make the difference, where are the things that you can have an element of control over. So whether that means that you're mothballing the business right now, whether it means that you're taking on grants, whether it means that you're furloughing people, doing the things that you can do, so you've done everything in your power on the things that you can influence. And obviously, as time evolves over the coming weeks, over the coming months, there'll be more and more things that we'll have the ability to have influence over again.
Okay, and in terms of furlough now, we see lots of people on furlough, lots of businesses that have let their staff go on furlough. When they come back, and we need to try and hit the ground running, and every business, we need to stimulate the economy, we need to get back. How can businesses utilize you and utilize your platform, and in terms of their business, to reinvigorate people and get them going again?
Yeah, of course. Great question. Thank you. So there's a few different ways, whether it be the case of working with leadership teams. So right now I'm doing lots of conversations with leadership teams of helping them get that focus, get back aligned, for team members that are having a little bit more of a challenge of working with some of those members on sort of a small group basis, or even on a one-on-one basis with certain people, to be able to align and connect. And then whether it means coming in and, similarly to what I've done with Bidder before, doing presentations, sharing some of the, not just motivation. For me, I don't like the term motivational speaker, or as much as people might find things motivating, because motivation doesn't last. If people can be given practical tools and have a focus and feel inspired, then that's something they can do. So like I say, one-on-one coaching, group coaching, coming in and doing small workshops, or even regular workshops as time goes on, to continue to have a focus on that side of things.
And if you were to prioritize that and give us the kind of top 5 things to be doing when we hit the ground running again, what would they be? Vision.
Coming back to vision, sharing your vision. Stephen was saying earlier that he attracted a particular member to his board because that he bought into what you're doing. It's just a great opportunity to reignite that vision and share with the company what the vision of the business is, because people have had so much uncertainty. And that's why I think now it's really important as business owners, as leaders within an organization, which I imagine people are who are on this call right now, is they're sharing that vision, they're sharing what the future looks like, and installing that confidence in people that there's going to be a future. So that and what the future is going to look like, because no doubt it's going to be slightly different to what it was before we came into this situation. So sharing the vision, I think right now, and not just when we come out of coronavirus, but right now is have those touch points with people, making sure that you're touching in with them a little bit more regularly than you would be. Making sure that they're on track, they're moving forward. Definitely introducing some of the things that I've mentioned about with regards to some of the practical stuff, like exercise, doing the yoga, doing the meditation, doing the breathing. It will definitely be things that can be hugely beneficial for people, and get people to set their own goals. This is certainly the first time in my life, I'm sure most of yours as well, we've ever gone through anything like this. But being able to get them to set personal goals, so they've got structure not only for the business but for themselves personally, of what it is that they want to do, how they want things to change, because no doubt they would have identified certain ways that they did things prior to coronavirus that they want to do differently now. And if they can align their new needs, their new desires with what the business wants, then you're going to be able to really pull that workforce into to operate with you and be really productive and effective and efficient in the business, achieving what it wants as well.
And is it important still to strategize?
Hugely.
Elaborate.
Yeah, because having a direction, like I say, for me, Northstar is what I always refer back to, is have the Northstar. The Northstar may change, the Northstar may evolve, but the North Star is got to be there, because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for something. We're looking for that direction. And obviously the luxury that a lot of us have, we get to create that for our organization, and we get to decide where we're going to. So having that and then reverse engineering it. So for me, it's like, you have your North Star. And again, just to use my artistic skills, which I'm happy to sign these and send them off to anyone that wants them. A lot of people might start here, and if they don't have strategy, and they're just constantly going from short term to short term, they're just going to find themselves ping ponging around. Whereas we've got that North Star, like I said, we can reverse engineer it. Yeah, we're going to come off track from time to time, but we've got our shorter term goals, our 3-year, our 5-year, our 10-year, what we're working towards personally, professionally, financially within the organization. And then we've got that alignment, and that becomes the strategy ultimately.
Okay, well, listen, your positivity is infectious. I hope it's rebounded onto our members today. I'm sure we will be seeing you again on the platform to delve deeper into certain areas, which I would like to do so. I'm going to now head down and see, is magnesium part of Guinness? I'd like to wish you all a very, very good weekend, and we can say safely that we've got through another week, and it's not getting easier, but it's certainly we're adjusting to. And Will, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you all on the platform again fairly soon.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Bye bye.